People should be able to give their feelings in 5 minutes, not 35.
Okay.
That's up to you. It's your meeting. But 5 minutes, and
we usually don't take any there's no repeat of any comments, and ask if there's a spokesman. Sometimes there's a spokesman, and, because if you don't give them their opportunity to speak, they can come back and sue you. So that's why
we give everybody an opportunity to say it, but if they can't say it in 5 minutes,
then we're done.
Then you're done. And we're lenient with that. It's not, it's not 5 minutes. Boom.
The meeting will begin in 1 minute. The meeting will begin in 1 minute. Thank you.
Call the meeting to order and ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon and welcome to the joint Sioux Falls City Council Minnehaha County Commission joint meeting on May 24th, 2016. I would recognize that there is a quorum present on the commission side, and I'd ask for roll call on the city council side.
Council members Erickson, Erpenbach,
Yes, here.
Kylie,
Here.
Neitzert,
Here.
Rolfing,
Here.
Selberg,
Here.
Starr,
Here.
Staley,
Here.
Mayor Huther.
Recognize a quorum.
Yeah, we have a quorum.
Okay. With that, we will move on to routine business. With item number 1. Oh, excuse me. I need a motion on the county side to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the county side to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. County.
And
Same motion on the city side.
side.
Same motion, Erpenbach.
Okay.
Second.
Kylie, please call the roll.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzert,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
The quorum present on the city side. With that, we will go on to item number 1, actually item number 2, which is a motion to approve. Denise, you want to read the description?
Yes, ma'am. Conditional use permit appeal number 16-25. A conditional use permit in the C Commercial District to allow a communication facility ground mount satellite dishes on the property legally described as Stokes subdivision of Tract 2, Lot 4, Pleasant View Acres, north half of the southeast quarter and south half of the northeast quarter, Section 19, Tract 101 North, Route 48 West, located at 1114 South Stokes Avenue. Approved at the April 25th, 2016 Joint City Minnehaha County Planning Commission meeting with a vote of 4-0 City and 6-0 County. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Okay. David Heinhold.
Good evening, Commission, Council. David Heinold, Minnehaha County Planning Department. As you may recall, this conditional use permit 1625. The applicant is Gray Television Group, and the owner is Eastside Developers. The parcel of land. Excuse me 1 second. Subject property is denoted on the map here. Is indicated it's about a half mile or quarter mile east of the intersection of Veterans Parkway and Arrowhead Parkway, just south on Stokes Avenue. Right there, as you can see, the extension of Quartzsite where that terminates in Stokes Avenue. The a couple of the property owners within the vicinity, a letter was handed to me upon conclusion of the April 25th Joint Planning Commission meeting that stated some concerns about the project. It was addressed to the City Council. So it's treated as a notice of appeal, hence the reason for the City Council County Commission meeting. This letter stated concerns over similar things like aesthetics and other issues that were presented as far as in opposition to the proposed communication facility for satellite dishes located at the subject property. This letter was included for your review, as well as an additional letter with concerns by additional property owners within the vicinity. And skip forward here, the next map shows some of the those list of landowners that were included on that concern letter that was submitted about a week after the Planning Commission meeting, about the first week of May, which shows the locations of where those landowners are. And as well as the minutes have been included for your review that set forth the concerns that were presented in the original Planning Commission meeting. Next slide just goes through some of the existing land uses in the areas, mostly commercial, industrial, located along, or a mix of commercial industrial located along Arrowhead Parkway in an established area that's been there for 50, 60 years as such. And then in addition to that, you see the large area to the southwest of the subject property is an existing rural residential in the Split Rock Heights subdivision, probably about 50 to 60 houses located in there, ranging from 2 acres to 6 acre residential lots. The petitioner provided a revised sketch map, a planting plan, screening plan, since what was included with the original plan about 2 weeks ago did not include an updated landscape plan from when the petitioner met with several landowners in the area as a neighborhood plan before this meeting, and that was last week, Wednesday evening, which both of the applicant and a few landowners are here in the audience, so they can address those particular issues as they come up. This is just a site sketch that was provided to me, an updated revised plan of how the layout would be, where those satellites would be located, with the circles on the map and the squares. Those indicate where those dishes would be. This just goes into a planting plan. This is the old planting plan, which was provided a week ago in time for this meeting, which has been revised since then in establishing some of the concerns of the residents, and particularly the view along the Stokes Avenue corridor and quartzite right there around the property. And then this goes into the grading plan around the site. Some of the as you go east towards the vacant parcel, which you'll see in some of the pictures. And this is just looking at the site itself, where this stands. There's trees in the background that are located on a residential property. And then as you look to the left of the image, you start to see that the industrial area, the established industrial area there, and the hill that drops off there on the back of the lot. This is the site elevation, the view from the west that was provided to me with the landscape plan, as you saw with that denotes the trees right there, with an image of what the satellite dishes would look like in the from that quartzite drive corridor there from the residential district and that entrance. And this is the site itself, again showing there's a garbage business to the north, several different uses that are presented, as was presented in the minutes in the Planning Commission meeting. Uses range from a garbage business, warehousing, storage units, and other similar businesses. So there are other uses that are in the vicinity. And again, the garbage business across the street. This is to the west. The Split Rock Township has their storage facility for their maintenance machinery and all and such, right across to the west. And this is just looking north on Stokes Avenue, on top of the hill, and then you go down towards Arrowhead Parkway as you proceed north. And then this is what would be to the right of the image would be in the rural residentially zoned property, as you saw on the land use map, the existing land use. And to the left, you can see the shelter belt around what is a rural residential property as well. There's a few lots that are centered around as we proceed on. This is that shelter belt, again, from the site around that residential property, and then This is looking down Quartzsite Drive towards the rural residential subdivision known as Split Rock Heights, looking towards that, and with the township building in the foreground. This is a cul-de-sac that is just south of the subject property, south of that shelter belt around the residential property that abuts the subject property, with one house on it, and then looking north again for that. So the County Planning Commission voted unanimously, and the City Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve conditional use permit 1625. So I'll answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions for David at this point? Okay, thank you, David.
The trees,
Councilman Staley. It's okay.
The trees that you have indicated that are surrounding this facility, so to speak, how tall are they going to be?
So
The landscaping.
The applicant can clarify on this, but I think it looks like appears to what was provided to us is probably about 15 to 20 feet.
So are they going to cover will it be covered at the end?
So what the applicant provided to us just recently and wasn't in time for this meeting, and I believe there's been packets that were handed out with the additional screening, which are coniferous trees. So pine trees, more established, they'll take a little bit longer to grow in some instances, but they'll reach heights that indicate with that view that cover the dishes themselves.
Additional questions? Okay, with that, this is, excuse me, Councilman Kiley.
It does appear from the different photos that you have shown that there is already quite adequate screening with existing shelter belts, you know, at least between this facility and anything that might be considered residential. And to the other side, it's already commercial. And possibly the screening is not as necessary in that particular case, immediate screening, but it will be there. Is that correct?
So there is screening on the south side, which is residentially zoned, and we have a commercial, light industrial zoned property. And to the west, there is no screening currently. So to have that residential property and the commercial industrial property, there should be some kind of screening there, whether that's with live trees. And there should be a height that where the residential property, say for example, it's on a hill, as you see in the pictures, it's up higher, so over the full height of.
Could we go back to that slide that would show that area to the west, please?
So, let me go back. Right here. So this area is looking down Quartzsite. As you can see, it goes up. So the trees will have to compensate for that height where the property keeps going up towards the Split Rocks Heights subdivision.
Of that residential area, how developed is that residential currently?
The residential to the left of this image is vacant.
Okay.
There's nothing there. There's probably 6 to 7 acres of.
My point was that there is already screening, even though it's off property.
Yeah. To the south there is. There's no screening to the west.
To the
or
left
the
of
east.
this road that we're looking at right now. The residential area is outside that picture, correct?
So as you can see in this image right here and on that map that's denoted, you can see the shelter belt there. There's trees that are located along Quartzsite.
I'm not sure you're
those
understanding my
Look at the
point.
little picture. Look
Yes,
at
So
I
the
am
inset
looking at
picture
that.
will show that shelter belt.
That there's screening,
Yes.
adequate screening off-site as well as what's planned for on-site.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Kiley. No, Councilman Rolfing had a question.
Yes, David, my concern is, and I want to just make sure that the shelter belts and things that we've seen, that you've shown in these pictures, are they on this property now? And if they are, will they continue to be?
These are new.
No, not that one,
These
some
shelter
of the
belts are
pictures.
not. So the shelter belts you're referring to, I believe, they're not on the property. They're around the property on the residential properties.
I wanted to make sure that we weren't just going to use those as shelter belts or as visual screens, because they, quite frankly, need to be cleaned up a little bit so that they, would look decent. And so this is all going to be new, according to the site plan that we've got right here. All these trees, et cetera, will be new.
Yes, those are new around the subject property.
Perfect. That's what I needed to know.
Commissioner Kelly.
Is there fencing on the west? I see the handout we got proposed, the fencing. Do you know if that's going to be on the west side also? It looked.
Back here. So on the west side, where the entrance to the property you're referring to, there is denoted with on the plan with a vinyl fence. It doesn't show on the plan that was presented, but it has been come to my attention that a vinyl fence has been proposed along the west side, in addition to trees that are coniferous and deciduous trees.
I understand the neighbors have concurred with this fencing. Is that correct? Or
I'm sorry, what was that?
concurred with the fencing?
Can you turn your
You'd
mic
have-
on, Commissioner Kelly?
I'm sorry. It was on.
Pull it a little closer to you, Dick.
The neighbors have concurred with the fencing?
To my knowledge, they have, but if you want to check with the neighbors and the applicant, they can give you more knowledge on that.
Are there additional questions? This is a public hearing, so we will be hearing from the proponents and the opponents in just a minute. Commissioner Barth.
David, can you go back to the first picture after the one with the human figure in it, I think? Let's see here.
Should be the third.
Okay, the next one. Actually, go back to the human figure. I've been out there and looked at this. And so the trees you see are not on the applicant's property.
Right.
They are to the south. If you looked the other way, you would see, 16 garbage trucks with no screening. And if you looked to the east, you'd see commercial buildings. Looking to the west, there's a gravel road with commercial buildings that have been there for a considerable period. And then eventually it gets to the Split Rock Quartzsite residential area where there are some very large houses. Now behind the screen there, or the screen of trees we see, there is that one very nice house that's on that cul-de-sac, and there's lots platted. But the only screen right now is not on the applicant's property.
Are there additional questions? Go ahead.
The fence that they're proposing, the vinyl fence, is that going to be all around the entire property?
I didn't get the notice for that as far as whether it's going to be around the entire property, but the original packet that was provided to me did have a fence that was going around the entire property.
There should be a fence around the whole, I would think, with these valuable pieces of equipment that are sitting there, they'd want some fencing for protection anyway.
We'll probably find out when we talk to
Yeah.
the proponents. Are there any other questions for David? Okay, with that, this is a public hearing. We will give an opportunity for both the proponents and the opponents to speak, keeping the times fairly similar. How many opponents want to speak against this project? Does anyone want to speak against this project? Okay, well then we will hear from the proponents. If you'd come up and give your name and your address, and you're speaking in favor of this project.
My name is Gary Busselman. My resident address is 7201 East Madison Street and 57110 Sioux Falls. The slide that's on there now, the subject property, I own the lot immediately east of this property. And this sounds like a good project for me. That's a tough lot to build on. I see a lot of good about this project. It's not noisy. It's not doesn't need water. Doesn't need sewer. I mean, there's no cars coming and going, just maintenance. It's low. I just see a lot of good, and I don't see any negative for my property. So I would just hope that it's approved.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this project? If you give your name and your address and.
I'm Jim Berman. I'm the president and general manager of KSFY, 300 North Dakota Avenue. And I want to thank you for your time today. As you know, KSFY is relocating its studio and its satellite dish location, and we found a property that was appropriate for commercial use. And as you know, we don't have to rehash everything. We were in front of the Planning Commission, and it was approved. It was evident, though, from the comments that were made by those who were at that meeting, by some of the residents, that not only that, but also the subsequent petition that was circulated, as well as Mr. Jackson's letter, there were still concerns from our future neighbors that we needed to address. And so once we realized that, we set up a meeting. We met with them 6 days ago at the Split Rock Firehouse to address their concerns directly. We thought it was a very positive meeting at which we exchanged ideas on improving the landscaping, the fence along the west side of the property, as well as the gate. And we believe now we have an approach that is mutually agreeable to all parties. And I do have updated what it looks like in color and just some of the specifics of the fencing, and be happy to pass this out if there's an interest in that, or answer any questions that any of you may have.
Are there any questions at this point?
I'm sorry.
I do not see any questions. So thank you for their comments. Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor of this? Otherwise, I'll bring it back to the commission and to the city council. You want to speak in favor of it? Again, give your name and your address for the record, please.
Kevin Jackson, 1101 South Quartzsite Circle. I'm speaking on behalf of a majority of the neighbors who attended that neighborhood meeting with Gray Television. Gray Television has accommodated the neighborhood's request to improve visual screening from our neighborhood. Therefore, the neighborhood approves the new landscape plan and fencing being submitted today by Gray Television.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Jackson? Okay. Any other proponents that would like to speak? All right, then I would bring it back to the council and the commission for discussion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Barth.
I'm going to make a motion to approve this project, and then I have a comment.
I have a motion and a second, and my comment would be to approve the updated, revised. David, could you come up here? Exactly what is our motion, so we make sure we get this right? It's was there stipulations on this? I was just looking and I couldn't find that, so I want to make sure we approve the right thing here.
So the stipulations are set forth in the minutes. There's 10
Okay.
criteria. I don't want to go through and read them, but
I don't think you need to, David. I just want to make sure we approve. So his motion is with the 10 conditions. Is there anything else that we need to add?
I mean, other than if you wanted to set like a height limit of the trees for a minimum height, that's something that.
I don't think so. Okay, I have a motion and a second with a comment from Commissioner Barth. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I got to say that so often many of the issues that we have are from a lack of communication. And when we get together and talk about things, so very often solutions can be worked out without any hard feelings on either side. And I'm really pleased to see that that's what's happened here. And certainly people who may not have wanted this in the beginning might not be perfectly pleased, but this is a wonderful outcome, and I really appreciate everyone working in good faith to get this done.
I have a motion and a second on the county side to accept and this.
We had joint discussion before or just the county?
We're just the county right now, Dick. To approve this conditional use permit. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
And for the city, can I have a motion to approve this petition for conditional use permit 16-25?
So moved with the same
Kylie
conditions.
was the first.
Second, Erpenbach.
And second, Erpenbach. Any comments, additional comments or concerns? Would you call the roll, please?
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzer,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes?
Selberg,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
That passes 8 to 0.
7-0.
7-0, Mr. Chair.
7-0.
Okay. With that, we will move on to item number 3, which is the Sioux Empire Network of Care Helpline presentation.
Good evening, councilors and commissioners. I'm Stacy Teason. I'm the coordinator for the Homeless Advisory Board, and I'm just doing a little pre-info for Betsy before she gets up here. If you recall, some of you last June, we were here to talk about our new 2025 plan to end homelessness for the Homeless Advisory Board. One of those strategic goals was information management. We're trying to figure out how to get a grasp on really what the homeless problem looked like in Sioux Falls, as well as, handling the overall flow of how people are sent to services, making sure that they are treated fairly, but also not having to divulge all their lifetime secrets every time they go to an agency. So kind of just creating some sort of system where they could share their information one time and then have that information be shared with another agency as necessary and as befitting any kind of release of information. So with that, there was a lot of work on behalf of the community in regards to figuring out how to do that. And with the help of the 211, we have figured this out, and the help of the Bush Foundation, and Betsy will get into all of that, but I just wanted to kind of lay the ground as to how this has all come forward and just sharing that it's been an exciting process. We look forward to how this is all going to morph in the next couple of years. And just really and truly, when we look at how we can better serve the people in our community and how we can better use resources, the Sioux Empire Network of Care is really going to be that solution. And it's pretty exciting to be able to say something like that because great things don't always come along every day. So with that, I'm going to let Betsy share with you her PowerPoint.
Thanks, Stacy.
Good evening. My name is Betsy Schuster, and I am the Vice President of Program Development at the Helpline Center. And so I'm excited tonight to share with you a lot of work that's been done the past year, a lot of community conversations, and how to make this a reality. So first, just representing the Helpline Center as the lead agency. For those of you not familiar with the Helpline Center, we've been part of the community since 1974. We do 211, which this is somewhat working in collaboration with 211. Suicide and crisis support for the community, child care resource support, military and family support, and volunteer connections. So that's just a brief overview of the helpline, which is one agency as part of the Sioux Empire Network of Care. So as Stacy mentioned, where did the Sioux Empire Network of Care come out of? Actually, conversations of how to create a coordinated intake system has been happening for many years, but there's never been a vehicle to move those conversations forward. So it's through the Sioux Falls Tomorrow visioning process of 2014, the social service goal number 3 that the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation facilitated was to create a coordinated social service intake system. So out of that goal, there was a lot of conversations. Some people that stepped up through those conversations was the Helpline Center, Sioux Empire United Way, Homeless Advisory Board, and Community Outreach. Employees came together, started talking, and we applied for a Bush Foundation Community Innovation Grant. The Bush Foundation's out of Minneapolis, a St. Paul area, and they're a fabulous foundation, and we were able to receive that grant a year ago. That grant was $200,000, which allowed the project to move forward. So instead of going from conversations, it can now move towards a reality. So that has been the funding for this pilot area. The first year, which we're just coming out of, was a lot of conversations, a lot of collaboration on what are the barriers, what are the outcomes, where do we foresee this going. So our task is to build a coordinated social service system through a community collaborative. And we really see that collaborative and community as a key component, that we have to do this together. We, as agencies, as a social service sector, how can we join together to better serve the needs of our entire community? So our vision is we imagine a community which there is a coordinated social service system that works in partnership to best serve those in need. So one, it will provide a rich source of data that will prevent people from falling through the cracks. So we'll understand where are people accessing the system, where are there deficiencies in there. Also, it will allow us to collect data that we can, as community members, as community leaders and stakeholders, we can better identify where are we targeting funds, are there areas of opportunity, are there areas of growth from that perspective. So the project structure, there's a steering committee, a collaborative task force, the Helpline Center as the lead system administrator to the program, and then the pilot agencies. And I'll go through each one of those individually coming up. The collaborative task force, this was a really important part of getting social service agencies together in one room and talking about this. So this process actually started last August. We met 4 times. There was over 25 agencies involved, representation from the county, city, and state level, as well as smaller nonprofits and larger nonprofits, and really problem solved as a group is this possible? Is this worth carrying forward, or are we just dreaming beyond dreams? What was really exciting about that process is we had great conversation, and at the end of those 4 meetings, not one agency said this isn't possible. An agency said we're really interested. Some agencies says, yes, sign us up to be a pilot agencies, but we were able to start and build that foundation to bring agencies along together. So then there's the steering committee, which Councilor Erpenbach sits on, and we appreciate her input, along with 9 other members. And the 9 other members of the steering committee, they are on the handout that was provided as well, if you're interested in who was on that steering committee. We are continuing to meet, and they really provide general oversight to the program. So what they did was they took the ideas and the solutions brought on by the collaborative and really refined that to what is a pilot project. And we identified the need for a shared software solution. We've identified the need for a common intake form to reduce that need for clients to continue to share their story from agency A to agency B. So how can we create common data? The steering committee will oversee the implementation of the pilot project and then also work to identify sustainable funding for long-term success. So the Bush Foundation grant is 1 more year, and then we know through that we'll need to start working on what is a sustainable funding source if the pilot and when the pilot project is successful. So our overall project outcomes, 1 is establish a collaborative that is committed to improving the social service system. Create a coordinated system that improves data collection, reporting, and analysis. Right now, as we have rich data within agencies, but we don't really know across the board, are those duplicated people being served across agencies? We don't have that full picture of data. 3, create a system of real-time resource availability, which is huge. For example, if someone calls 211 at 8 o'clock tonight and they need a bed at Bishop Dudley House, we send them to Bishop Dudley House. With this software solution, we're actually able to see, you know what, Bishop Dudley has 10 beds remaining. There's 10 beds that haven't been checked out for the night. And then that increases communication back and forth. As well as community outreach as the pilot agency. If they're out of gas funds for the month, we know that ahead of time and start talking in between one another in a more efficient, effective manner. Number 4, which I apologize, there's a typo, is improve system efficiencies for those being served. And so it's hard going into an agency and asking for help. There's a barrier to that. So how can we make it better for those being served? Number 4 is move to a system approach that allows a person to be served as a whole. So right now, they're just being viewed chapter by chapter. What is that whole book? What is that whole story to that individual? And how can we better serve those? One reference that we made, it's somewhat like electronic health records. If you go to the ER department, they document what happened, and then if you go to your primary care doctor, they know what happened at the ER, and it carries that story forward. That's sort of what's happening with the Sioux Empire Network of Cares. How do we carry that story to serve that person as a whole? And use data to improve efficiency, identify gaps, and avoid duplication. Where can we better utilize funds? Where are some areas that we can grow programs if needed, and move forward with the use of data? So overall, there's 3 key points to remember about the Sioux Empire Network of Care. We're working to build a systematic infrastructure. How do we better do this as a community? So move from that transactional approach where it's just we provide you a service, input, output, to a systems approach that takes the entire account of the individual. 2, provide software to collect and analyze a better set of data to understand community needs. And number 3, client-centered. So how do we better serve some of our most marginalized populations in our community, making sure that they're respected and that information is confidential as well. And so our pilot project, we actually started software implementation today, 8 hours. I'm still standing and awake. And so our goal is the next 4 days, the software is actually on site in Sioux Falls, which we're very excited about. It's been a long process. And so we are getting that up and running, and then we will onboard these pilot agencies throughout the summer in a staggered approach to ensure that the software can be customized per agency along with the network. And so hopefully by June, we'll have one pilot agency on board, and we'll continue to grow that as we onboard them. So that is briefly the Sioux Empire Network of Care. I open that up to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Betsy. Are there any questions? Councilman Staley.
Betsy, thank you. Say, I got a question. You were talking about directing people to the Bishop Dudley House, and I see you have the St. Francis House on here. I've got a question. Do you ever send them to the Salvation Army and the Union Gospel Mission?
Yes, and so both of they've been updated on the project. These are the pilot projects that will be able to access the system and input data, but we will be tracking the referrals outside of the pilot so we can figure out where are people going.
But how do you decide where they're going to go?
Sometimes that's eligibility and who has room, and that takes communication back and forth. And so sometimes individuals choose one agency over the other. So the goal is we don't, through the 211 helpline, we don't play favoritisms. When you dial 211, you're given the resources available. So they would be given, here are the options to stay for the night, and then the individual can go from there.
And then do you provide transportation that they would get to the places?
Nope, right now there's no transportation from a 211 perspective.
Additional questions, Councilman Erpenbach.
I would just add to it then, at first, I thank you and your group. It's an amazing project. I want the group here to understand it is a pilot. This is just the beginning. I wanted to remind us, too, of the Sioux Falls Tomorrow project, which is the vision for the future. This was established by a group of community citizens in 2014. One of the top things they talked about was this, not only intergovernmental conversations, but this same sort of conversation between and among social service agencies. So this piece really does play into a lot of planning in terms of the community as a whole. I just then wanted to remind the team too that this, as just that beginning, one of the best examples of this is the idea that we've always done a point-in-time count of those folks that we believe to be homeless in Sioux Falls, and it always runs between 400 and 600 people. Over the last 12 months, the Bishop Dudley House has had more than 1,200 individual people counted as homeless. We don't know for sure who they are or where they came from, but now that we have this opportunity with the software, we're going to be able to serve them better in a more efficient way and be able to provide over the course of their story. I love that analogy. Over the course of their story, be able to provide the services that they really need in a way that is better for them, as well as probably saving in terms of time and energy and those kinds of things. If you could talk to that just a little bit more in terms of, again, it's only 5 agencies, Betsy. So what do you see if these 5 are successful? What happens after this? What do we bring on some other folks, or do we just keep with those 5? How does it go from here?
Our goal is that it become community-wide, that agencies are able to join, to share that data. We've also met with the medical, Avera and Sanford, and so we've even talked about how does that work. And so Avera, they're very interested, Sanford's very interested on just learning more about it, because some communities, we've researched a lot of communities across the nation as well. We're not the first community undertaking this, and so we wanted to look at best practices, what works and what hasn't worked. And one of the main things that we learned was start small, so you can really build that strong foundation and to get people to buy into the system. And then 2, from a medical perspective, we never see health records going into this system, but they could use a system to see if they're doing an ER discharge, where can they send a client to continue that continuum of care beyond the hospital to maybe reduce those ER admissions as well. So we have a lot of nonprofits. What I see is it's already exciting, because out of 6 agencies, we developed a common intake form, which is a huge success, that we all have agreed on common metrics to start. And then those agencies are also able to track additional intakes or assessments that they need to track for their own agency. So there's a lot of efficiencies with the cost of a software. This sophisticated, it's expensive, and we're able to bring those costs down by collaborating together and using the same system. So that is our overall hope, is to continue to grow this, to continue to share, and really see the referrals and better serve individuals in where they're at.
Then if I might follow up then, because you brought it up. Now, the elephant in the room really is, what do you want from us, and how much money is this going to cost us?
That's a good question. For right now, we just want to continue to keep you informed about what's happening because it's very exciting. It is going to be transformational, I believe, and our pilot agencies believe on how we go forward in a social service sector. 2 is the long-term funding. We will eventually need to be asking for funding from a variety of sources. The Bush Community Foundation grant goes through June of 2017, and so it's important to start those conversations now, how that looks. So the system, we're not quite sure exactly how much it costs since we're just starting with the pilot. The original grant was $200,000, which is getting us going. And then the system is really built on how many end users there are. So because of the confidentiality, we have to pay per user that access the system. So the faster the system grows with end users, the cost is going to go up to accommodate those end users and usage.
Okay. Additional questions for Betsy?
I have a comment or two, if I could. This is super stuff. This is really, really good. You answered one of my questions about HIPAA, I believe. You're really not having to deal with that because all that is still confidential within your system. It's just going to follow the person so that if they have to go to the hospital, the records are going to be available.
Yep, the hospitals are not part of the Sioux Empire Network of Care right now, so they are not able to access the data. Our pilot agencies, none of the pilot agencies are HIPAA compliant, and so it's definitely written in the policies and procedures of what happens if a HIPAA compliant, but right now we don't have any required HIPAA compliant pilot agencies involved. However, the system, the software that we've chosen, they've done HIPAA and Medicaid billing in different areas across the nation. They have that component available.
That's super. This reminds me of what some of us are looking at with the city and the counties of moving together, collaborating, as it says here, moving from transactional to a systems approach to better serve our clients. And I congratulate you. Go.
Well, thank you. It's we have a lot of partners in the room that have put a lot of time, effort, and conversation. So it's definitely a team effort, which is exciting and refreshing to see.
It's too bad the press has already left.
They've uploaded a story as of 5 p.m. We embargoed it till 5, and we've heard it's on their website already.
Super.
So, thank you, Betsy. With that, if there's no more questions, we will move on to item number 4, which is old business. Is there any old business? Item number 5 is new business. Is there any new business? Okay, I would look for a motion on the county side to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
And on the city side, can I have a motion to adjourn? And
Second, Erpenbach.
Second, Erpenbach. All in favor, aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Meeting adjourned.